Is Sasha's time with the Kings coming to an end? Morgan Reagan. I think I would just for once this offseason like to open up my phone and be like, oh, a happy King story. So Saturday morning, having some coffee. What's going on social media? I'm a little tired from wine tasting. Let's see what's going on. And I see everyone in King's social media freaking out about Sasha Vezenkov. A couple of reports out there, none from an NBA reporter or anybody locally, but two conflicting reports. The first one from Matteo Andriani from BasketInside.com. He reported that Sasha Vezenkov has been informed that he's not in the Sacramento Kings plans for next season.
Okay.
He says that Sasha's priority is to stay in the NBA and that the Kings will try to trade him.
Oh.
But then we had another report from Eurohoops.net. The reporter Mihalis Stefanou
You're doing great.
tweeted, Sasha Vezenkov has informed Sacramento that he doesn't intend to return for a second year of his contract. For now, it's open whether he will continue his career in the NBA or he will decide to return to Europe.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right. I don't know what to make of all of this. We have not heard anything else besides this. Sasha Vezenkov did sign a 3-year, $20 million deal last offseason with the Sacramento Kings. But essentially, he's going into the final year, right? Because the third year is a team option.
Yes.
But at this point, these reports suggest that there's obviously something going on between Sasha and the Kings.
And it hasn't been reported by anyone else locally, right? Everyone else has just been basically talking about these reports, correct?
Yes. And look, these basketball reporters may be awesome. I'm not familiar. Maybe this is the Woj and Shams of Europe.
Ooh.
I don't know. Maybe it is. But there's been nothing else out there regarding that. But also, would it surprise anybody at all if Sasha was maybe not totally happy with his role in Sacramento, considering the guy was a EuroLeague MVP, comes over to play in the NBA after the Kings courted him like crazy last year. He's coming to Sacramento like, oh, I'm on a playoff team. I'll play a decent role. And his role was beyond inconsistent last year, right? His minutes were inconsistent.
Yep.
He dealt with injuries, and it felt like he never found a rhythm in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, where do you really go with this, right? Like, what do you want me to say? It's like he wasn't adding a lot to this squad necessarily, but he also didn't have the trust from Mike Brown. So like, how long do you give this a go? Especially then when we talk on the other side of our mouths and we talk about how you got to make sure you're putting the right pieces around De'Aaron and Sabonis in their prime. So, I mean, what do you want me to say? He's a really nice guy. I was really excited about what he could possibly do in the NBA when he first came here, mostly because of how the team talked about him, how teammates talked about him. I never felt like it was fake when they were like hyping him up. Like the way that they would talk about his shot and just how beautiful it was. It's like, oh, it's pure. They love what they see. But that doesn't mean all of the instinct, the feel, the conditioning is always just going to translate into the NBA. And is it a miss? I mean, right now you're feeling like it.
I think it's a significant miss. I mean, look, I was excited for him. I thought this was going to be, to me, a no-brainer for the Kings.
For sure.
I was like, dude, bare minimum, he's going to be a good rotational player for this team because he's able to shoot. He moves well without the ball.
Smart player. Yep.
I know there were questions about him defensively, but I thought he even did some good things defensively, of team defensive concepts. Could get his hand on the ball every once in a while, but also he would get targeted some, no doubt about it. So he ends up playing 42 games with the Kings last year, but he played a total of 511 minutes. He averaged 5 points a game, 2.3 rebounds, and 12.2 minutes per game. Shot 44% from the field, 37.5% from three-point range. He had the 2 ankle injuries. The first one kept him out a couple of weeks. Then he had that grade 3 one that kept him out 7 weeks. And it seemed like he was maybe turning a corner, and then something like that would happen.
Yeah.
And that was a huge setback for him. But my point is, the guy played 511 minutes. I don't know. Like, what you just said is so accurate. I'm like, Is he a good player in the NBA? I don't know, because I don't feel like he got a legit shot.
For sure.
I never felt like, and it really felt like a lot of those guys in the back half of the rotation, they would be on such a short leash
For sure.
by Mike Brown. And that's not to say like Sasha doesn't have limitations, but I'm left going, I don't know. I felt like he was good enough to help a team in the NBA, and maybe I'm just missing something. Maybe he is just not good enough from an athletic standpoint and defensively to hang at this level. But when he came in,
Why are you
was there
yelling at
not
me?
life in the building? No, but there was life in the building a little bit. So I'm a little perplexed right now. And maybe this is the reality. It's like, look, sometimes you make moves like this thinking it's going to work out, and it's just not good for either side.
Deuce, this happens on every team in the NBA. But here's the issue. When it's an organization in a small market like the Sacramento Kings and a team that has seen so much trauma and bad basketball over so many years and then finally felt like they were going in the right direction, when there's misses, it's not like if he was just the miss of the season, it would be like, oh, but it was the miss of Sasha and then Harrison not living up to what we were hoping that he could even be after re-signing a deal. And then it was, the entire
JaVale
team.
McGee, Duarte,
you
none of
go-
those moves. But
you can go down the line. Yes. So that's why when you say like he brought life and something else to the building, yes, I think it was also just as people that cover the Sacramento Kings, and I think you could say this for a lot of our media within this market, was that like everyone saw this glimmer of hope because no one ultimately was watching Sasha Vezenkov night in and night out, but they had seen full games, absolutely. But you weren't watching him night in and night out for seasons and seasons being like, this is the guy that is, his game's going to translate into the NBA. Oh my gosh, this is going to be perfect.
Here's the thing. You also saw how hard they were going after him. Like, they make the trade to acquire his rights.
Yeah,
You're
they
like, oh, he's gonna
believed.
come over. Yeah.
So-
But my point though, that what surprises me about it though, why, like, I was just more surprised he didn't get more of a legit shot, a legit run, because dude, they sent executives over. Mike Brown went over.
How are you
They had a
supposed-
full court press on this guy, and then it's like, okay, he got
How
a
are you-
little bit of a chance.
How are you supposed to give this guy a shot when he's also like suffering grade
Sure.
3 ankle sprains?
But there were opportunities before that
There
where he was
were.
out of the rotation. Where you're like, ah, man, he makes one mistake. It's like he's out, and it's like, well, let this guy. You guys said this.
You say this, but like some coaches just have different standards of what the shit they want out there.
I understand that, but we can also be critical of decisions coaches make at times, and it felt like not just with Sasha that at times that those guys didn't have the same leash. And I'm not saying like, hey man, you could fight, but sometimes as a player you need to fight through struggles. He's new to this league. He's got to figure it out. Like, if he's gonna make it in the NBA, it's not because he makes one mistake and he sits on the bench and thinks about it. Some guys have to go out there and go, all right, let me get another shot at this and see how I do.
How many times did Davion Mitchell have such a short leash, especially throughout the beginning of the season, and then he didn't let it get to him, and he kept fighting through, and kept seeing few different opportunities. And then, of course, here arrives Keon Ellis, and to take even more of his minutes, but he never like hung his head. If anything, it just like lit this fire under him to keep like finding that way to gain that trust, to make sure that he was dominating in the minutes that he was receiving.
Sure.
And
but
I
what
think,
changed too, though? Like, if we're going to play that, going with Davion Mitchell,
What?
we can talk about, well, he got more of a chance. One, he was hitting the shots for sure. He started to hit shots more, right?
But yeah, within his opportunities.
Sure. But then Kevin Huerter got hurt and Malik Monk got hurt. And
For
when
sure.
those two guys got hurt, they needed another guard to come in and handle. Like, they were almost forced to play him more, is my point. They had to,
But
based
that's
on...
always, that is the NBA. The NBA is so situational, and it's so like, how are you going to grab that opportunity? And sometimes your opportunity is 5 minutes in a game, and if you don't do every single little thing that a coach or a system might want you to do, it might be like, we don't have time for that shit. And I don't necessarily think that's the right way to coach. I have definitely been coached like that. And yes, if anything, it can really screw
Right.
with your confidence and do so many other things to you. But it can also try and trigger and flick something and
But guess what?
make you go.
Guess what, Morgan? And we
What?
talked about this too with Davion. When you're playing 2 minutes and then, hey, Fox is going back in. That's hard to get in a rhythm.
But,
Some of these
yeah,
guys need rhythm.
I get that.
you need some time to cook a little bit. And I didn't feel like Sasha, Davion too, but Sasha at times didn't get enough time to go out there and cook. And I think if you're investing in him, you put the time and resources into someone, giving them more of a legit opportunity would have been nice to see. And I'm not even saying it would have worked out, but I'm left looking at this Sasha situation going, I don't know what to make of 511 minutes. Yes, some of that was due to injury. Acknowledge. But there was also times he just wasn't playing.
Right now, what we are witnessing in the postseason and now with the NBA Finals, like I think with some of these players is elite defense, and not even just team defense, just as individuals. I mean, you can go down the line of freaking Celtics roster.
Sure.
And you just pick one guy and you go, oh, his on-ball defense and what a crazy blah, blah, blah. Not everyone's going to be a Drew Holiday. We get that. But, like, I think the importance of being able to not be a liability on one end or and then
That's fair.
but if you are a liability on one end or the other, you better be goddamn elite on something, doing something just so great that like there's no excuse to not have you out there. It was going to be his shooting. And then when it wasn't his shooting and it wasn't his offense necessarily, even in his sliver of time that he was out there before any time he was injured, it's like, okay, we don't have time for this.
I think looking back, it had to do with the defense. And the reality is, like, I'm sorry.
It screws with everything.
I understand that, but like Kings, didn't you? You knew what you were getting in Sasha. You weren't getting like some crazy supreme athlete that was going to be able to defend multiple positions. And you're right. The point you bring up about what we see in the playoffs, players like Sasha end up getting played off the floor because come playoff time, they're going at your weakest defender. Okay, they are going at him nonstop, and so you have to have the ability to move laterally, rebound, contest shots, and I think that's what hurt him most this year is Mike Brown's emphasis so much on like we have to be better defensively, we have to take a step, that he was not tolerating any missteps on that end.
I think when you're trying to court the EuroLeague MVP under 30 years old, it's a low risk situation, especially with the contract that it is, having the team option in the third year. Like, I mean, sometimes you're going to swing and miss. And I think there's going to be so many people that come after me and go like, but you can't do that. We're not And it's like, okay, I get it. Sorry. That's just reality. Like it's going to happen. And sometimes it can cost you your job if you're someone in the front office. And other times you also get a longer leash to be like, oh shit, it just didn't work. And so we got to make sure we're making the right decisions and moves this next season.
Yeah, the reality is the deal that they signed with Sasha is not something that's going to crush you for years to come. And now we also have to acknowledge this as we kind of reflect on Sasha's year is re-emphasizing like these are the reports that are out there. I don't know.
He could be on the roster next year. And
he might be. And that's the one report that was mentioned earlier was like, oh, he's not going to come back for year two. He's under contract. So, yeah, he's going to be there if he's not traded, right? And so the Kings do have some options here. I think, one, like, he's an expiring contract technically. So there are teams who would look to trade for him. And I think some people are like, well, what's his value? I don't know. I mean, I think you probably make him part of a larger trade package than anything. Otherwise, I mean, to me, it's like a second round pick.
And what I will say as well, and I think something will be like, oh my God, you're so soft, whatever you're going to complain about.
I have no idea what you just said.
Oh my God, you're so soft. Like someone's going to say that about me when I say this. Like he's such a nice guy and a good teammate. And all the times that you just see this guy rooting everyone on, even when he wasn't getting the EuroLeague MVP, not seeing the floor, not getting his playing time, cheering for people,
moving
excited
all the way around the world to come to Sacramento.
But like just as a teammate, I'm saying just what he was doing on the sidelines and everything else. And I just think like if anything, it was great. Actually, or it is great to have a player around that has that type of personality and it has the ability to remain professional and everything. So wherever this ends up going with him, I'm just glad that like we've experienced a good human in all of this.
That's really sweet of you, Morgan.
I know people
That's
are gonna be
so
like,
sweet
"Oh
of
my
you.
god, how dare you say that?"
So the options are pretty simple, right? They could trade him. Like if they have gotten to a point where it's like, we tried this, didn't work out. We're gonna look to find you a new home. You could do that. Waiving him doesn't make much sense, right? Because although the final year is a team option, you're just gonna eat that money. That doesn't seem
that's
realistic. Now they could use a stretch provision, which allows you in this circumstance, you'd be able to waive Sasha and then stretch his money out over 3 years. So you'd pay him like 2.2 million per year, and it wouldn't just it would help your cap situation, whatever. But I think
Why wouldn't you just keep him on the roster though?
you,
Like
you
at this
could.
point,
But I think if I'm not advocating for the stretch provision, I'm
Yeah,
just telling you
okay.
the options. I would say and we don't know what's true or not, but like if the Kings are like, yeah, we don't really see you in our plans. Sasha's like, well, yeah, I didn't really like being here anyway. Then you do what's right and you try to find a home for him in the NBA and give him another chance.
sure.
And then he can decide after that if he wants to go back after this season or not.
Okay. Well, I mean, either way, I think in some ways, I think it's the off season. You see this come out about the Kings. You want to shoot the shit and talk about it, right? At the same time, I think it's a little premature to talk about something like this when we're not seeing other reports locally come out as well.
I think we did a fair job talking about this. I think the reality is we were just talking about his season as a whole and why we don't think it maybe worked out. Like what was the reason why he wasn't playing? The reality is he's probably not happy.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Would you be thrilled if you moved for this opportunity in the NBA and you're not playing? Even if you're a good teammate and a nice guy, you would be a little bummed by it, and you would be like, man, I want to play. Especially when, like you said this, Morgan, the guy's a EuroLeague MVP.
He's a competitor. No,
I want to play basketball. That's what he loves.
I make a joke about like doing a little money sign because I'm like,
and he makes money over there.
But it's I guess that's the thing. I can't ever imagine making millions of dollars. So like, I'd be smiling from ear to ear. I would be like paying off my shit and like having a good life. But as a professional basketball player and being a competitor and seeing that money before, yes, I completely
that's
understand.
the point. It's not like we're sitting here going, hey, it's confirmed because Eurohoops.net and what was the other one?
BasketInside.com.
BasketInside.com said it. I don't know. I mean, I know nothing about those guys.
I know.
And I'm not freaking out. Was I coming across like I was freaking out about this?
No, not at all.
How was I coming across?
Well, okay, you weren't coming across as anything, but here's my other question too. If we were to go down like rosters throughout the year, could you point out what guys you were excited about and then didn't turn out the way that you wanted them to turn out?
I mean,
like
Sasha,
throughout the years.
If you go back and watch me talk about Sasha on previous clips, I look really stupid based on the fact that it didn't lead to anything this year. I thought it was going to be an impactful bench player.
like it.
I was talking to people at Summer League last year around the league, and I was like, because they're like, oh, how the Kings didn't do anything. I'm like, dude, just wait. And they're like, what? I'm like, Sasha Vezenkov. And they're like, what? I'm like, dude, EuroLeague MVP.
You don't know. You don't know.
The guy can shoot it. Lights out. He moves without he's perfect for this offense.
Yeah. It's crazy to me because sometimes it's like how many times we talk about college players and their games not translating into the NBA and all these things. But it's also situational for many different personalities.
He's going to get moved to San Antonio and be like some crucial piece for the Spurs. And be like, oh my God.
Him and Wemby are taking the team to the playoffs. Oh.
Can you believe that Sasha Wemby lob? It's amazing.
They don't even need Sasha to play defense because Wemby's protecting the rim.
Sasha wins the 3-point shootout. Or moves to Dallas. They get 2 EuroLeague MVPs.
No. And then they get 2. Then teams would have 2 guys that they could hunt out on defense. Come on. Get out.
Let us know in the comments what you think about this situation. What do you think the Kings should do? Why do you think Sasha maybe didn't live up to expectations? I don't know. Some people may have had different expectations.
Yeah.
I think mine were a little high. I even said at one point, I was like, Morgan, I mean, could he start in front of Harrison Barnes?
Well, you said that because
I acknowledge my bad takes.
but it is, but also it was what was being kind of pushed out there
Morgan,
in some ways.
You think I get swayed by that shit? We sat here and watched him in the EuroLeague playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
Swayed by his teammates saying he's got a quick release. That didn't sway. I mean, I got more excited. I was excited before it was even official. We were watching these games, and I'm like, dude, I think he could really help this team. He's got the size.
Watching his games gave me like this, oh, hell yeah, I'm excited for this player. Then hearing his teammates talk so highly about him, his shot, his game, the front office talk about him, those were the things that pushed me over the edge of like, all right, well, if they're seeing this shit at practice, then it must be good. And then like, obviously not getting to witness everything that they might have saw at practice. Yeah, kind of sucked, but
Here's the one last thing I'm gonna add.
What?
I can't believe we've been talking about this for this long. This is like we're ridiculous.
Whatever. It's summer. It's fun.
No, I just like he had a body of work overseas. And so I think it's not like he was this mystery man. Like we got to watch him.
Yeah.
He wasn't like a 20-year-old who, oh man, like I think
he dribble?
Like I think he can play basketball, and I think he
can.
could have a spot in the NBA. Like that's not a ridiculous take. It just didn't work out here at this point.
At this point, I think even that's ridiculous to say, because what would be so funny is then if he comes back next year and then he's like has a feel for the game. He's in the rotation.
I think the tough part though for Sacramento is just like from a team building perspective is like how they need more athleticism.
Yep.
They need length. And you said it in these playoffs. It's like you see all these teams. It's like they've got multiple bodies they could throw around, switchable defenders. And
they need more consistency too. Like it's just, I mean, having healthier bodies. Whether you're like a lot of these guys are banged up. Luka, Porzingis playing out there banged up, but they're in there. They are keeping an identity and consistency to what the team wants to do to see success. And so, yeah, it's
now you're watching a lot of playoffs and finals and stuff. You see the great defensive teams.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, all right, Sasha on the perimeter scares me for sure.
As it should. As it should.
Team defense was bad at times.
But like, how many times have I talked about this? And again, you have to like. Perspective, one more thing. You have to remember where the Kings are defensively. It's not like they, over the years, have been able to get this guy on defense, and this guy, whatever. We've been able to talk about Mike Brown basically trying to cover up the flaws of some of the bad individual defenders. And I think as a coach, he's done a pretty good job. And I'll just say okay job of that. There was times
he took a big jump defensively.
That's what I'm saying. Like even when Kevin Huerter was out there at times when he was being hunted, getting taken to the basket, it was sad, whatever. But then he would have these moments where like his flaws could be covered up because the rest of the defense was rotating great. And then talk about someone like Malik Monk taking a leap with his defense, even just being able to rotate, be in the right spot, and almost taking a charge. And then obviously the addition of Keon Ellis being able to be in the rotation and add that. You see the importance of that perimeter defense, that pressure, how important that is.
Okay, so for the people watching on YouTube, drop the comments below how you're feeling about this Sasha story, what's next for the Kings. And also, if you want to email or drop in the comments below, you can email deuceandmo@gmail.com, or in the comments below. We're dropping a Kings mailbag this week. Send us your questions. We appreciate you guys. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe.
Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. The